The following books are of an adult nature and intended for mature audiences only. Reader discretion is advised.
LastRightSync.net presents Shadow of the Devil, The Desecration of Peter Cameron, by Dean Julian Davis. When Jesus came into the coasts of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, saying, "Whom do men say that I the Son of Man am?" And they said, "Some say that thou art John the Baptist, some, Elias, and others, Jeremias, or one of the prophets." He saith unto them, "But whom say ye that I am?" And Simon Peter answered and said, "Thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God." And Jesus answered and said unto him, "Blessed art thou, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood hath not revealed it unto thee, but my Father which is in heaven. And I say also unto thee, that thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Matthew, King James Bible. Chapter 1, The Awakening, Monday 6:57 a.m., 26 August 1978, Vatican City, St. Peter's Basilica. The atmosphere was electric, a vociferous crowd gathered across the depth and breadth of St. Peter's Square as preparations were made for the announcement of the new pope. Excitement had many of the normally stoic and even-tempered bishops nervously pacing through the hallowed hallways. Their thoughts were consumed with the importance of this celebratory day. Young and old, rich and poor, patriot and foreigner gathered in the square. The event was broadcast internationally and the eyes of the world waited eagerly for the election to the papacy. Father Layad. "Father, may I please speak with you?" Father Joseph Principi's voice echoed throughout the elevated ceiling and towering archways of St. Peter's Basilica. He ushered Father Layad into a hall adjacent to the main corridor. "I spoke with the committee as I said I would. But regrettably, the situation. It's very complicated. It is often difficult in these times to know exactly what the right words are to say. I'm sorry Anton, but the answer is still no." "How could that be? I was promised months ago that I could view the book." "I know, my dear friend, and it was a hard decision to make. But after the unfortunate incident with Father Cameron, there are those on the committee that believe it is too dangerous to view such contentious material." "Too dangerous? We are modern men, Father Principi, existing in the modern world. We're not living in the Dark Ages terrified of sailing off the edge of the earth, nor are we stationed as the Inquisition fighting to rid the world of all heretics. No longer are we compelled to burn books because we fear its wicked effect on the mind and spirit of mankind." Visibly deflated, he refused to give up. He pleaded in a softer, more measured tone, "I realize that my stance is controversial and that the Church deems the book to be blasphemous. But from a scientific view, a historical view, there are many things we could learn from such an ancient writing that predates Aramaic script. Maybe I could speak to the committee directly." "I'm sorry Anton. There's nothing I can do, the verdict has been rendered." Father Principi gripped his shoulder tightly. "The matter has been closed and the committee will not hold a conference on the subject again. Their verdict is incredibly short-sighted. Why keep the book if no one is to see it? Please, if I could just..." "I know how disappointed you are. But the book has been ruled as arrant heterodoxy. The fact you even know such a text exists demonstrates the confidence and trust the committee has in you. I know your dedication to the Church, and that you are held in the highest esteem by your parishioners, and for that you have been awarded a post in America. Find comfort in the fact that God has given you the ability to spread His word to the masses." Father Principi smiled. "So many people depend upon you, Father Layad, and your good deeds." He turned to walk away with his arms outstretched to the heavens. "This is a joyous day. Celebrate with our friends, with the world. And let's have no more needless talk about the book." Father Layad's heart burned with anger and the utter hatred cut deeply into his normally kind face. He exited St. Peter's Basilica through the door of good and evil, and pushed his way through the large crowd amassed in the square. He ignored their smiles, cheers and best wishes as he passed them by. He hurried down Via Cola di Renzo and avoided the gaze of the few tourists that milled in and out of the restaurants and fruit and vegetable markets that lined the sidewalks. A small nondescript brick apartment building melded into its surroundings and stood halfway down the street. He entered through the open corrugated metal garage door. Inside, a young Turkish man with wavy shoulder-length hair sat at the base of a winding iron staircase. He was clean-cut and wore a camel-colored leather jacket with dark brown driving gloves. His brown eyes were hidden behind a large pair of designer sunglasses, and it gave him the odd appearance of a European cinema actor. He stood, held out his hand and stopped Father Layad in his tracks. "Emir. Brak Gitsin, Emir. Let him pass," a deep voice boomed from inside a powder blue Subaru van. "Benimuljalin, come with me." The young man stood exposing the handle of a Russian-made PSM pistol tucked neatly beneath his jacket. He saw the confusion on his face, then waved for Father Layad to follow him up the iron staircase. Out of breath and still seething with anger, Father Layad climbed the back stairs to apartment 333. Emir knocked on the door twice in rapid succession and waited for a reply. "Evet, Badaki Kalutfan. Kimo? Yes, 1 minute please." "Who is it?" a voice asked in stern monotone. "Sizing Gibrakadism, a friend of yours." He turned and smiled at the priest. From within came the sound of the tumbling locks clicking as they opened. The horned face of Bishop Attis Martz appeared through the cracked opening. He quickly unlatched the door's chain and ushered Father Layad inside. Two more Turks sat side by side on a fading mustard yellow leather couch. Father Layad had never seen them before, but it was obvious to him that they were members of the ultranationalist Santeal, Black Serpent. Standing across from the men was his friend and mentor Father Grigory Santeal, casually dressed. Next to him was Cardinal Rudolph Fuerst, and Archbishop Alessio Catoa, and behind them near the window was Father Santeal's imposing American friend Robert Stone. He could see the shadow of a mysterious sixth man through the open door of the back bedroom. The young Turkman was dismissed and he shut the door behind him. "Anton," Bishop Martz flashed a wide smile, "is there something wrong? We weren't expecting you until later this afternoon." "I know, but I needed to speak with Father Santeal as soon as I could." "Are you crazy? You shouldn't have come here dressed like that," accused the American. "No one saw me. The streets are empty, or have you forgotten today is the conclave?" A bay window at the back of the room gave a perfect view of the white dome atop St. Peter's Basilica. "I'm sure Anton came because he thought it important." Cardinal Fuerst put his hand on Father Layad's shoulder. "We will discuss the matter as soon as we've concluded our business with our friends." Marco, one of the Turks, stood up. He was extremely cocksure and clearly their leader. Like Emir, he looked and dressed very European. "Gentlemen, if we could. Before there are any more interruptions. Robert, if you would be so kind," said Father Santeal, "please give our guests their packages." The American retrieved two large gray-striped duffel bags from the back bedroom and tossed one of them onto the coffee table. A large muscular man seated next to Marco stood up, unzipped the bag and pulled it open. Instantly his eyes lit up with excitement. 10 9mm Stechkin automatic pistols, untraceable. 12 Browning high-power single-action 9mm semi-automatics, also untraceable. Robert reached inside his jacket and tossed a silver pistol to Marco. "Elias Rogak P18, holds 18 rounds, he smiled. "This one's extremely traceable." He continued the presentation and dug into the bottom of the duffel bag. 6 M16A2 5.56mm rifles with fully adjustable rear sights. Also very lightweight and untraceable. Marco turned to Father Santeal. "Your friend has a very impressive collection of toys." He examined the Rogak pistol in his hand. "But you know that's not what I came for." Robert bent down and unzipped the second duffel bag. Inside, neatly arranged, were a dozen off-white colored blocks. C4 explosives, primary assemblies, detonator cord. Your detonator cord clips. He opened a smaller bag and held it up for Marco to see, and of course, your detonators. Satisfied? Asked Father Santeal. Marco picked up a green duffel bag lying beside the couch and glanced over at the tiny bedroom near the back. Tell your friend Mr. Costa, next time I want to meet with Cecilini in person, no more games and no more lackeys. He opened the bag. That won't be necessary, said Father Santeal. You don't want to count it? We're all friends here. I trust you. Father Santeal extended his hand. A surprised Marco raised his and shook it. Oh yes, I almost forgot. He retrieved a small black box from the kitchen area and unlatched the hook. Inside were 2 glass vials held in place by a dark grey fabricated foam molded snugly to their shape. Each was filled with a clear and deadly liquid. He took a cloth from the table and carefully removed one of them. I suggest you use gloves when handling this. He placed one of the vials on the table, shut the box and handed it to Marco. If you'll excuse us, gentlemen. Marco and the other man left the apartment. Halfway down the staircase, Emir offered to carry one of the bags. Nians? Sanusgangaran, what's wrong? You look upset. His face was emotionless and he passed Emir without speaking. The heavy-set man sitting in the van opened the rear doors and they tossed the duffel bags inside. The man who had accompanied Marco to the exchange embraced him and kissed him on both cheeks. Marco Ayat. Bizim Dusmanima Eidil Sek. Marco has done well. Our enemies will be destroyed. Upstairs inside apartment 333, Father Layad ashamedly turned to confront the others in the room. I'm sorry. I tried my best but they refused to let me see the book. Do not worry my friend, all is well. Bishop Martz produced a small black book from inside his coat. The cover was embossed with a circle inside a triangle inside a circle. You see. Fate has willed itself upon us. You have the book. Why didn't you tell me? Our enemies blind to our faces are aware that a great storm is coming, and a final judgment is at hand. There are those who spoke out against us, and spoke of destroying this book. So our mysterious Mr. Costa, and the Ceylan found another who possessed it. Bishop Martz ran his fingers across the ridged cover, before handing it to Father Santeal. I am 80 years old today. It has been my life's work to find the treasure we now have in our hands. I have searched so long for the book, from Laszlo to London and to the ends of the earth. He smiled at Cardinal Fuerst. I've spent decades trying to find the Temple of Metatron, and I have waited all my life for his coming. A man must be rewarded for his deeds, and he must surround himself with those with like minds, for his enemies will be tenfold. I only wish I could be there to see those who stand in our way suffer for their disloyalty, and be trampled under our feet. Now, I leave it to you to carry on my work, Grigory. Father Santeal gave Bishop Martz the other vial and he tucked it neatly into a plastic-lined pocket inside his coat. One last deed and it shall be done. Bishop Martz grinned as he addressed the rest of his confederates. I will always be with you. If not in being then in spirit. He turned and left the others. Cardinal Fuerst slipped away from the others, and entered the small bedroom where their guest Mr. Costa sat at the edge of the bed with his head in his hands. He dropped the duffel bag filled with money on the bed, but Costa barely acknowledged his presence. He took one last glance back at the group then quietly shut the bedroom door behind him. Gentlemen, a great wheel has been put into motion. We must prepare, for our enemies will hunt and persecute every man in this room. We must prepare for death if need be, for there is no turning back now. Father Santeal was lit with an inner fire, but I promise you, if you stand by my side, if this circle remains unbroken, you will receive the awesome power and protection of our Lord. Shadow of the Devil, The Desecration of Peter Cameron. Available at Amazon.com, and BarnesandNoble.com.